Okay, so as usual I started doing stuff before I put the camera back on. What I did to pull this gear out was I simply just pushed these tappets up, and then you can just pull these out. These look to be the same, so now cam followers probably can just come straight out like that. Cam followers. There's some little rings. Now here's where it gets interesting. I'll check the inside of this out. That's pretty cool. Damn it. This is where it gets interesting. I don't know if I'm supposed to just kind of, if this just punches out, is it? I think it's probably just pressed in there. Maybe. I'm not sure how that's supposed to come out. I don't know how that comes out. Maybe it can go through the ultrasonic like that. I have a feeling it's supposed to come out because I think there's a bearing in there. Maybe John can help me out with that. I'm going to go fill up my ultrasonic cleaner here and drop these parts in, and then I'll show you some clean parts. Okay, so here's the completely disassembled Laser 100 engine. I've cleaned everything up and oiled things. I'll just quickly go through this because this is going to be kind of long. This timing wheel, I'm not sure what you really call it, was pretty nasty, so I got some like 1500 grit, 2000 grit emery cloth sandpaper with oil and just kind of clean that off. I did not punch that out. That bearing feels fine, so I'm not going to mess with that. And this is about as clean as the case came, which I can zoom in, I guess, a little bit more here. Not bad. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's okay. Here's that piston with the dual rings. It didn't come 100% clean. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I could have left it in there longer. Big, beefy connecting rod. Some other things. Here's those timing gears. They're all nice and clean. Cylinder. And those valves, you can see here that the exhaust valve is the smaller of the two valves. They're cleaned up. Nice and clean. Now here's the head. Not perfectly clean, but it doesn't need to be. It's much better than it was. And of course the big beefy crankshaft, all nice and cleaned up and oiled. So there was some, I've got two bins of parts here really. The ones that went in the cleaner and then the ones that didn't. I didn't put the carb, the front housing. I did put this back cover and this in the cleaner. Rocker arms, I didn't clean those things. So there are some things that didn't get cleaned, but I do want to touch on a couple of things here. I was so concerned about the screws, these long screws in the head. Well, it turns out upon disassembly I found out something, and this is kind of where an exploded parts breakdown of this engine would have been nice to have. But hopefully I've learned some things here that will help others if they go to disassemble these engines. I'm going to have to zoom in here. Apparently these screws are a little bit longer than they really need to be because they had these little spacers on them to actually kind of effectively shorten the length of the screw by the length of that spacer. Now, I only came across 4 of these. There are 5 head screws, so either one was never on here or I lost it somewhere. It's not in my ultrasonic cleaner. By the time I noticed that these were out, and And I know I didn't show it in the video because that video was really long, so I started editing some stuff out. These wouldn't come out because they were just so gunked up, and when I finally pushed them out, that's kind of when I noticed that. Maybe one of them flew off here on the floor, I don't know. So I only have 4 of these little spacers now, unfortunately, which is really not a huge deal because all it means is that I select a screw location and cut the screw off by that amount. And I'm sure we'll be okay there because this is basically just a spacer that's exactly the same width as a screw head anyway, so it was just a spacer taking up some slop or space because these screws are probably too long. So that's something to be mindful of should you go to disassemble one of these engines. I'll kind of keep looking around here, but honestly there were a couple of them I actually had to dig out of the head because they come off and they're kind of cocked in there and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But so that's basically it. I think we already saw that my bearings here are good. So it's just a matter of reassembling this engine, and then we'll get it going. We'll do a run video of it here once I get this reassembled. I'm not going to do it tonight because I'm kind of tired from work, but I just wanted to show these cleaned up parts and basically what all a laser engine is made of. It's actually pretty simple, and turns out that there's a big area here that's just really unused space. But I mean, it's a nice, easy design to work on once you know the techniques and how to disassemble some of this stuff, which is kind of what I found out the hard way. But anyway, not too bad. And I know I didn't show removing the valves. It's a pretty simple, straightforward procedure, just like I use on any other one. It's got 2 collets, and I always just use a box end wrench to put some paper towel up in here to keep the valves from pushing down, and use a box end wrench to depress the keeper and the spring, and then use a magnet to grab those collets, and it works great every time. So you don't lose those things. So there you have it, the internals of a Laser 100 engine. Okay, so despite what I said last night about not reassembling this engine because I was tired, I went ahead and did it, and here is the result. Seems to have better compression than it did. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just me. But the engine is all back together and ready for its test run. So I hope you learned something. I know I learned a tremendous amount. One thing we're going to learn here soon is, did I actually time the thing correctly? And hopefully we'll find that out this weekend.